Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome all of you that are students in the class, and welcome to all of our visitors. We are very, very excited tonight to have Lindsay Hadley with us. She's an amazing entrepreneur and is doing some incredible things that have not been done before. I had a chance to meet her in Hawaii a few years ago, and after our lunch, I walked away thinking this is one of the coolest people I've ever met, and now that I know her better, I think she's even cooler than that. So we're excited to have her here. We're going to have Lucas introduce her in just a minute. Unfortunately, she needs to leave right at 7 o'clock. She has another appointment back in Salt Lake City, so as soon as she finishes, we're going to have to escort her out. She feels bad because she would love to stay and chat with you. She's just not able to do that tonight. So I'm going to turn the time over to Ben, who has a quick announcement, and then he'll turn the time over to Lucas, who will introduce Lindsay, and we'll just go ahead and get started.
Hello, okay. All right, as you can see here on the board, we have a QR code. There are 3 teams from Utah State in the Utah Entrepreneurship Challenge. So everyone pull out your phones, pull them out. We have 3 teams from Utah State. We have Bleeped, Terra, Flow, and Zilk. This is the opportunity to beat BYU, right? So pull out the phones, we need your help. You can vote for 3 teams, so pull it out, look at it. There's a couple cool videos you can see. And vote for there. I'll turn the time over to Lucas.
Go Aggies. Lindsay was a global social impact consultant for her own firm called Hadley Impact Consulting for over a decade and has raised over $50 million directly for her clients and leveraged billions of dollars for causes throughout her campaigns and events. She is extremely personable and cares a lot about you guys and the people that she meets everywhere around the world. She is also the Chief Development Officer and Chief Producer of Global Citizen Festival and is the Executive Producer for a film called Uncharitable featuring Ed Norton. She's currently the Executive Producer for several other film projects and television shows, which led her to become the co-founder of Harbor Media Fund, a nonprofit that leverages donor dollars for social impact feature films. I've had the chance to talk with her and get to know her a little bit. Like I said earlier, she cares a lot about individual people and forging valuable relationships that last a lifetime. So please give it up for Lindsay Hadley.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me. I don't know how personable I am, but I do love people. And I'm so grateful to share today. So there's a little clicker, right, to do things. So I wanted to talk to you guys today about my journey. I started my career, like most of you probably are, which is right now in college. This is me as a young 20-year-old girl, and I'm in Peru with this cutie pie. My early career, I started doing humanitarian work in third world countries. It was kind of a dream job. Anybody like traveling? Who likes to travel? Oh, yeah. Let's see. So basically, I knew that I wanted to travel, and I knew I wanted to make a difference in the world, because growing up, I got so much joy out of doing service. I kind of felt like service was like peeing your pants. Everybody can see you're doing it, but only you get the warm feeling inside. It's my dad joke. I won't do another one, don't worry. So I loved it, and I decided to go to Peru on a humanitarian trip, and it changed my life. It made me realize, like, I wanted to do this. So I actually interned for nonprofits. So here's a little tip for you guys. Everybody that's here, no matter what you want to study or do, if you can get an internship, and I don't know all how, be with your counselor at school and stuff, but try to get an internship, because if you can get credits actually doing the thing you're going to do one day and getting real world experience, it's so invaluable. And so I did. I got an internship for a little nonprofit that was doing humanitarian aid in Mexico, Thailand, Peru, Kenya. And then when my internship ended, I became such a relied upon part of the team that they actually created a job for me. This is a huge hack. So I highly recommend that. But I ended up doing this humanitarian work because I knew that I wanted to help people and bless lives. But fast forward, and I, true to Utah culture, I got married very young and had children very young. And so as a baby having babies, I decided I didn't want to trek malaria-ridden jungles anymore, because when you're nursing and pregnant, it's not super wise to be doing that. So I moved into administration and fundraising, where I could still help the causes I cared about, but I would just do it from home. And so fast forward to this first music festival I did. Before this, I ended up putting on concerts when I was your guys' age. I was the president of a Rotaract, which was a service club. I went to a couple different universities, but I ultimately got my degree from from the U of U. I did go to U of U too. Don't judge me. I never went to Utah State, but I know it's very cool here. But I ended up putting on a benefit concert for clean water wells in Cambodia. This will really date me, but I had my first national touring artist called Ben Folds 5. If anybody, you guys are too young for this. But anyway, I had a big touring artist, and we raised $100,000 for clean water wells as a college student. And I was like, that was so fun. Everybody had the best time, and we all had such a good time, and it made a difference. And I was like, I want to do this again, so I doubled down on it. And then after doing a couple benefit concerts, a friend of mine said, you should do a music festival. And so this was my first music festival. Somebody asked earlier at our dinner what was the riskiest thing you did. This was probably it at that time. So I was in my early 20s, and I tried to put on a music festival. We called it the Candlelight Serenade. It ended up becoming the most abysmal failure of my career. So what happened was, my friend who had also produced and promoted concerts, and I both did it, but it was the blind leading the blind. So here's a little tip. If you're going to do something that you've never done before, try to have an adult in the room. What I mean by that is someone who's done this before, whether it's an advisor or a mentor or a friend, or, ChatGPT can help you make sure you don't make the idiotic mistakes I made. But one of the things that we did is this concert. We did it at Thanksgiving Point, and we did it to raise money for anti-trafficking efforts. And we had a bunch of different artists. Again, you guys won't know these artists, but we had like 311 and Third Eye Blind and Dashboard Confessional and all these artists. And there's a band called Neon Trees that you maybe know that opened for us. But anyway, we put on this acoustic benefit concert. And leading up to the concert, I was doing all the same things I had done for these concerts, but this festival was not selling enough tickets. We needed to have 5,000 tickets to break even. 8,000 tickets to break even, and we'd only sold 5,000. And so I was just losing my mind because the revenue wasn't coming in to cover the costs, and we were freaking out. So like the last month leading up to the concert, I was literally like on the streets, like peddling tickets, like, please, sir, like stopping, like you thought I worked for an MLM, No offense. But I was just hustling, trying to sell these tickets to get us to get 8,000 tickets, but we didn't. And one of the things that I wish I had done is when you're in, I wanted to give you guys some of the lessons I've learned along the way, but one of the things that I learned was if something's not working, like when I could see 2 to 3 weeks, there was no way I was going to sell 3,000 tickets at the pace I was doing, I should have pivoted and thought new thoughts. Like I wish that I could go back to myself and be like, give tickets away, like just fill the freaking room, because at this point you're doing it for a charity, and instead of having like 10,000 people there where they all got to learn about the cause, I should have had like anybody can earn a free ticket for this, or I should have gone to the universities and given them out, or gone to service clubs or whatever. I should have done something, but instead I basically was just struggling to sell these tickets. And so we show up, and you guys, it loses $100,000. So here I was raising $100,000 from a concert. Now I put on something that took way more money, way more time. It was a way more Herculean effort, and it lost $100,000. And I'll never forget, I came home that night, and in fact, the board members of the charity wrote the check, and they did it as a debt. So they were like, hey, we're going to loan the money to the nonprofit, but like Lindsay, which I was the executive director of this little startup nonprofit, they're like, you have to like raise the $100,000 and pay us back. And I was like, what? So can you imagine trying to raise money? Hey, what's this for? Well, it's to help anti-trafficking, but first is to pay back a debt from a concert. And so like that's a horrific situation to be in. So I come home at 3 a.m, and I fell prostrate on the ground in my living room, and I was sobbing. I hadn't seen my little kids for like months, it felt like, because of how stressful this situation was. My husband and kids were asleep. I was so distraught. And I remember in my tears being like, who do I think I am? Like, what kind of audacity? Like, why do I think I could do these big things? And I was so devastated, and I felt like such a failure. I felt like as a leader, I'd walked everybody off a cliff. We had like 100 volunteers and these sponsors and donors, and I just was like, I'm the biggest loser. And while I was sitting there, I heard a voice like inside my heart that said, stop, this isn't about you. Pick yourself up and make things go right. It kind of shocked me. I was like, oh, I am kind of making this all about me. I thought I was making it about all the people I let down, but actually the despair and the level of self-focus was kind of a self-deception. I actually was really, really in a spiral of shame, which is not actually real accountability. Real accountability feels different. It feels like, okay, I'm going to learn from this, and I'm going to do better, right? And so the Spirit like whispers to me, to make things go right, and I'm like, I have no idea how that's going to happen, but I'm going to go to bed. The next morning I woke up, and I was feeding my little toddler, his little baby food, and I had my laptop open, and I was like, I have no idea what I did wrong. The other concerts I did, all were successful. I don't know what happened. It just didn't work. I did all the same things. And so then I just thought to myself, man, I need to find someone who's done this before. And so I Googled, we didn't have chat back then, ChatGPT, but I went and Googled, what is the most successful music festival in history? And it said Coachella. Anybody been to Coachella? Okay, cool. It's cool event, right? So Coachella, and I'm like, Coachella. So this is how powerful of an event Coachella is. It's now like in its 15th year of operations, and 1 year out, in 2 weekends, so 75,000 tickets, so 150,000 tickets because they have 2 weekends of the same show, it sells out in 1 hour without one mention of an artist. That's how powerful the brand of Coachella is. I could be the headliner and y'all could be buying tickets. Like that's crazy. I can't sing that well. So it's amazing how powerful the brand of Coachella has become and the trust in the music industry and for the general public. So I was like, who were the founders of Coachella? Google, So I pop a Goog and I basically find this guy his name's Paul Tillett, and he was like in all of the interviews, and he was in all the pictures and in the red carpet. And there was another guy that said he was like the operations guy that also co-founded it. His name was Bill Fold. And Bill Fold was like nowhere to be seen. And this is another little hack, a life hack for you guys. Usually, not always, but usually the person who's behind the scenes is kind of the person that kind of gets a lot of stuff done. They're the integrator. There's a great book called Rocket Fuel, if you've ever read. It's about how there's visionaries and integrators. A lot of times the integrators are the people that get everything done. They're just as instrumental and powerful in something, but they're more accessible because the guy that's like on the front page of everything, that's like the CEO and the face, or the gal that's like the front on the mic is usually has all the demand signals coming at them, right? So I actually was like, I'm gonna try to find out how I can contact Bill Fold. I couldn't find anything, but I found an info at Golden Voice, which was their production company, on their website. And I did what's called cold calling. Anybody ever cold called someone? Cool, that's actually more than normal. It's cool, you guys are above average in your generation because most people don't like to cold call. It's really intimidating. And so what I did is I basically said, hi, my name is Lindsay Hadley. I did this thing and it totally screwed up and I'm super mortified and I was trying to do a good thing. And I just gave this really short 3-sentence like synopsis of what had happened. And they said, I Googled that you're the most successful music festival in history, and I understand you're one of the founders, and I'm wondering if I could just have literally 10 minutes of your time because I really feel like God told me to make things go right, but I don't know how, and I'm wondering if you could help me. So I could do absolutely nothing for this person. I sent send, and the next day I had my phone number there. I got a phone call from a 909 number, which is Riverside, where Bill grew up, and it was Bill on the phone. So this is Michael Jordan of the thing that I'm just trying to do or just failed in. And he said, hi, this is Bill. Such an amazing human being. To this day, he's my friend and my mentor. But he says, yeah, listen, tell me about your event. I start to tell him what happened. He goes, Lindsay, that's remarkable. You only lost $100,000 your first year of your music festival? I'm like, what? He said, yeah, 95% of all music festivals fail in the first year. And almost all of them lose revenue for the first 3 years. It's in the 4th year that you become profitable. And so this insight, this information that I didn't do as bad as I thought I had done was so life-giving and so encouraging. I just didn't know and hadn't built a runway for this business to prepare me for revenue loss. If I had gone to investors or had a strategy or thought through how are we going to do this ahead of time, great, but I didn't. And so what was really crazy is that he ended up saying, come down and I'll show you around. I'm about to set up for Stagecoach, which is like the country music version of Coachella. And so I flew on a plane, and by the way, this is another thing. When somebody powerful like that is willing to give you time, shine their shoes, clean their toilet with a toothbrush, your toothbrush if you have to, but show up and be in relationship with them, okay? Because this was like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I didn't have the money to just buy a last-minute ticket down to Indio Valley and meet with the founder of Coachella, but I did, right? And so I got down there, and one of the cool perks of being an executive producer of a music festival, which I've now done many since then, is that you get your own golf cart. So he pulls up in the golf cart and he had his little dog that was a little Jack Russell Terrier that had its own credentials and all access pass that said Uncle Rico. And I was like, did we just become best friends? And so Bill Fold basically has me pop into his cart, and he drives me around and kind of tells me about the festival and gives me advice, and he just starts to mentor me. And I'm just soaking in every second of it and just amazed. But what I wanted to share that story for is that Bill Fold could absolutely do nothing for me. And I don't know if I lost the picture completely, but that's okay. Okay, here we go. Oh, I skipped forward. So Bill Fold could do nothing. I could do nothing for him, and he was here helping me, okay? So this is something that I've learned. When you're successful in life, if you can reach down and try to help people, give them attention, you have to be worthy stewards of your time, because if you get really successful, everyone will want time and you only have so much of it to go around. But if you can find ways, especially when you feel a nudge, I think, from the other world or something higher to help somebody, try to do it. And so that's something, because of Bill Fold, I've tried to do. Fast forward, and in 2011, the next year, I moved to Perth, Australia. My family is here from Australia. You guys want to wave hi? My family and friends from Australia? Yay! They came here today. And I got asked to executive produce a concert. This is John Legend. And we had a bunch of national touring artists in Australia to raise money for polio eradication. And because he had encouraged me and said it wasn't that bad, I tried again, right? But before this happened, what was really cool is to make things go right, I did a benefit right after the Candlelight Serenade for the same charity, because remember, we had debt, and I couldn't go raise money from the public for this debt, so I had to just put on an event that would be successful. And so I knew nothing about this little sport called poker, because I'm a little Utah Mormon, and so I was like, but a friend of mine said, hey, I know some of the world's best poker players. I bet you could do a poker tournament and raise money. And I was like, done. I will sell my soul. I need to find $100,000. So I ended up putting on this benefit concert. So after this benefit concert that failed, they put an event on in LA that was a poker charity night. And it raised $89,000. It was just shy of the $100,000, and I was so pumped. But here's the best part. The failed concert, this Candlelight Serenade that I had done before, I met a woman during that process who brought a man to my event. And when I got up to speak on the mic like this, the gentleman came up from the audience, and he had a limp, and he was 77 million years old. And he came up, and his name was Sumner Redstone. He was the chairman of Viacom. Viacom is it owns a third of all of Hollywood. It owns Paramount and Disney and Nickelodeon and MTV. And anyway, he's worth tens of billions of dollars. And this gentleman came up and said, I need your mic. And he grabbed the mic, and in front of everyone said, I love what you're doing here. And he reads a little speech that he wrote about why he has to stop trafficking. And he announces his commitment and handwritten check for $1 million for my charity. Now, this was only 3 months after this failed concert. But what I learned, and by the way, there's footage of this somewhere, and I'm sobbing. It wasn't a cute Kodak, thank you, oh my gosh, the children. I was ugh. I was just so excited that this guy had done this. I couldn't believe it. It not only got us out of debt, but it rocketed us into this stratosphere, and I was the only employee in this little startup. So I just got my first $1 million check. It was I had personally won it, but it was so amazing. I didn't. It went to the children, don't worry. But the point is that it felt like it. And the thing that I learned from that experience was that failure can be a part of your process if you ultimately allow it to be towards success. That every entrepreneur will tell you, failure is not only actually inevitable, but it is critical. Because if I hadn't had that failure, I wouldn't have put on that event that then brought the $1 million. And if I hadn't met Sumner Redstone and put in the $1 million, I wouldn't be here today and everything else that's transpired in my life. And because I believe in a higher power and a bigger design and things that are bigger than me and outside of me that are going on, that are kind of magical, I really believe that when you hit failure, no matter how painful it is, no matter how horrible it is, look at it like the great teacher that it is. That it's here to teach you something about what your character is, what kind of fortitude you have, the people you're going to meet, how you respond, lessons that you're going to learn so that you don't do it the same the next time. It's iterations. So fail and fail fast, okay? We should have a culture of celebrating failure. And so then, fast forward, and I'm in Perth, Australia. I lived on the Sunshine Coast, the other part of the country, but I produced this concert. And this event was totally different. We did something crazy different. But I called Bill Fold, the guy that had given me some time, and I said, hey, I want to give back to you. You've been so generous and giving me your time and mentoring me. I'm producing a concert in Perth, Australia, and I want you to come produce it. I have a budget. The same guy that gave the $1 million for that charity ended up giving me $1 million in this new gig to put on this concert, okay? So this is really fun. But I said, I have $1 million and I'll pay you. So I'm coming back to him to bring him business, right? So he didn't think I could do anything for him. And here I was bringing business. He said, you know what? It's really generous. There's actually even better concert promoters and producers in Australia, but I'll connect you. And he connected me like the godfather of the music industry of Australia, a guy named Michael Gadinsky, who helped us put this event on. What we did here was really unique. We ended up leveraging constituency. Instead of doing ticket sales and merchandise and sponsorship and donations or whatever the profit margins are on that event, we actually had people sign a petition to win the concert tickets. And then we used that demonstrations of voters' constituency to the then Prime Minister, a woman named Julia Gillard, where we had her say, hey, your voters want you to give to polio eradication. Bill and Melinda Gates had pledged to match every dollar that a government gave to this. And so he ended up writing this check, and our event raised, this was literally, there was like 6 of us, we were in our mid-20s, raised $118 million for polio eradication. So I went from my last music festival that lost $100,000 to $1 million event to $118 million. And now, not everybody's story is this linear, but I can promise you that everybody who's ever done anything that has been any form of what we would call success, they have failed. Everybody, whether it's a marriage, a family, a relationship, school, you have to learn to fail. You have to be willing to risk to fail. So that's one of the great lessons I have. So fast forward the next year, and that same Sumner Redstone that I met through the failure of Candlelight Serenade ended up writing a check for us because you think he was happy? He gave us $1 million for a concert, and it turned into $118 million. At $1 per vaccine, that was 118 million vaccinations that actually literally stopped polio from being endemic in India. So polio is one of these things that, whatever your feelings are about vaccines with the recent pandemic, politics aside and opinions aside, none of you have to worry about getting polio because of vaccines. And a gentleman named Jonas Salk invented the vaccine, and they've been beating back polio since before any of us were born. And because of it, it's only 1% endemic. So there's only 3 countries left in the world that are polio, that still have polio cases. And India was one of the 4, and we eradicated it, our little team, because of this unique strategy. So it's really exciting. This was my next concert we did. We decided to double down this idea of, instead of relying on ticket sales and merchandise and the profit margins like most nonprofits, we decided to have the voters and the general public tell the government and high net worth people and corporations that we want you to put your money into this thing. And so as jaded as you guys may get about politics, at the end of the day, they are our employees. Any politician, Donald Trump, he works for us, y'all. I'm his boss. I'm the greatest boss ever, or whatever he says. That was a terrible Donald Trump impersonation. But basically, at the end of the day, we collectively, the people in any kind of democracy, actually tell them what to do. And if we tell them this is what we want and enough voice, they do it, generally. Or, we have to remove them through impeachment. We have processes, but ultimately that is the idea. And so we ended up doing this on the Great Lawn in Central Park. This is what 60,000 people look like from an aerial view. This concert of Global Citizen, where I had the privilege of executive producing an event where we had some of the world's biggest celebrities and music artists. We've had everyone from Beyonce to Coldplay to Ed Sheeran to Jay-Z up on our stage. And we leveraged billions of dollars for the world's poor. And all this came from failure. And we had a million little micro failures and some big disastrous failures and all kinds of mistakes that you make along the way. But nothing gets done without those iterations. Does everybody know the Got Milk commercial? Are you guys too young? Got Milk? Yeah, okay, a couple of people raised their hand. So this is a commercial in the 90s and the early 2000s where they had celebrities who would have a milk mustache and they'd be drinking milk. So this commercial was what we call a meta campaign or a meta commercial. And the idea is that it wasn't one milk industry. It wasn't Horizon Milk or True Milk or one of these great brands that we love, or whoever you guys prefer, Albertsons milk. It was actually the entire milk industry at large encouraging consumers to drink more milk. And this idea was that instead of having charities all viciously compete for limited resources of help polio or help extreme poverty or help do whatever cause that it is, homelessness or neurodivergence or mental health or whatever it is, I decided to create a career where I doubled down on creating what is called the convener model, where I would get charities who were normally viciously competing for your resources and attention, and I basically play a sophisticated choir conductor where I'd get them to all sing the same song, so to speak. So it was the entire milk industry encouraging consumers to drink milk, and everyone knew about this commercial because it was bigger than the sum of its parts. Does that make sense? It's called the convener model. So I ended up putting on tons and tons of convener model campaigns over the last decade in my little firm called Hadley Impact Consulting. And it's based on a principle of this really cool Jewish rabbi from 2,000 years ago named Jesus. He says, the first shall be last, and the last shall be first in all things. And the idea about this is this. If you're willing to check your ego and your logo at the door, and you can create value for a sector at large, or what people would normally be your competitor, if you can do the opposite of what everybody else is doing, they're all in there trying to get you to get their hamburgers and your Wendy's and your McDonald's. If you can be somebody that like actually helps the hamburger industry, have better buns, then they become the sum of all the parts in your purview. Does that make sense? So we, as a campaign designer and a consultancy, we ended up running these campaigns. This is actually one of the campaigns we did around getting celebrities. All these different celebrities are involved because they each have their own pet charity. This was all around forgiveness and reconciliation work. This is a band, Imagine Dragons. I have the privilege of being on their board, the Tyler Robinson Foundation. We did a campaign for critical illnesses with kids where we had 30 different charities all encourage people to get out and volunteer and visit kids with critical illnesses in hospitals, to donate, to share videos, to sign petitions, to raise money for research, to get top-down commitments like we talked about, the same strategy. So instead of asking all of you to donate, we'd ask all of you to do something and make a voice and a noise. Does everyone remember the ALS challenge, the Ice Bucket Challenge? That's a great example of a convener or meta campaign. I didn't put that one on, but that's a great example of that. So we started doing this. I'm going to fast for a little bit. During the pandemic, I ended up building a little boutique agency where we're like a one-stop shop for social good. We did everything from fundraising, event production, campaigning, influencer acquisition, creative work, PR. We're basically like a jack of all trade and a master of none, but we were like a special forces team to help people make a difference in the world. And so this little firm, we traveled the world. Our projects and campaigns were all so fun. And like during COVID, Kenneth Cole, the designer, called me and said, Lindsay, I want to do one of your convener campaigns for destigmatizing mental health. Right now, the crisis text hotline, this was in March 2020, the crisis text hotline was experiencing 3 times more inbound suicidal ideation calls than it ever had. And so we ended up getting 60 different charities under the umbrella of everyone from NAMI to the Trevor Project to the Harvard Psychology Department, and we all had them be a part of it. We had tons of celebrities from Kylie Jenner to Justin Bieber to Deepak Chopra, and they all came on and they did a campaign where they were like, how are you really? And they got on their social media and they would say, really though, we say how are you, but actually how are you really doing? And they would tag their friends they wanted to know. So they would be like, whatever celebrity, Mark Wahlberg, like, how are you really, and then he would pay it forward kind of thing. And they would talk about destigmatizing mental health and say, I've struggled with depression, I've struggled with anxiety, my mom was bipolar, my dad was schizophrenic, whatever, and they would talk about it to destigmatize it and then talk about how they could get help. But the entire industry worked together on this campaign, and we did billions of media impressions. This was a image in Times Square for our campaign. So this idea of many hands make light work, these ideas are dumb smart ideas, I'll call them. These are things that common sense is not always common practice. Like a lot of times in the nonprofit sector or in any business, you're like, oh, well, no, of course everybody does that. But it's like, no. And I'll kind of speak more about that, this idea of dumb smart. Something that everybody's taking for granted might be the very thing that you should be doing. So this is another convener model campaign called Orphan Myth. And I'm just going to kind of skip these for time. But basically, we done it. Oh, I just wanted to tell you about this refugee thing. Okay, so we've done this over and over, tripled down on it, became like global experts in it. So I guess we were a master of this one thing, which was the convener model. And I really enjoyed my work. I got to meet with some of the most inspiring people in the world, some of the most influential people in the world, and to make a real difference. So my job, as hard as it was and as much risk and fraught with peril it was, at least it was meaningful and it made a difference. And my campaigns and events over my 10-year career did billions and billions of dollars in funding for the causes that we cared about. And some of you might be in here going, that's really nice, lady. You have all these connections and you met these people and whatever. Our first event that we had Hugh Jackman get involved. And I remember when I first started telling my story, somebody was like, that's really cool, but you had Hugh Jackman, which I agree, he's dreamy, right? So, but at the end of the day, You don't have to have a celebrity or a billionaire like Sumner Redstone. You can start with something as in this concept of the first shall be last, last shall be first, this idea of getting behind others so they get behind you and creating something that is better than the sum of all the parts. Let me give you an example. So in Utah, anybody ever worked with any of the refugee resettlement groups here? Yeah? Cool. So there's 4 different major ones in Utah. The International Rescue Committee, the Catholic Community Services, the Asian Association, and the Utah Refugee Coalition. And these 4 organizations all have a job that when a refugee who's a legal immigrant who's been awarded asylum because like a Ukraine war is going on and then they get brought here, or the Syrian refugee crisis that some of you may be familiar with in 2016, they're given asylum, they come to Utah, and Utah has one of the highest per capita refugee resettlement programs in the world. We're really good to refugees, and way to go, Utah. I'm super proud of that. We have a bunch of bad per capita, like the most breast implants or whatever, but this one's a good one. This one's a good one, helping the refugees. So because we have so much language training because of the LDS Church and because of our generosity, we're the most generous state in the world, and we're the most generous country in the world, so we are the most generous people per capita in the world. Did you guys know that? Utah, also one of my favorite per capita. Another one I don't like is most antidepressants, but anyway. So what I was going to say is this is really cool. This refugee resettlement work is really important. And what they do is these refugees get assigned an asylum worker, and they have 6 months for this assimilation to get them a job. Because at the end of 6 months of being in the country, the cliff falls, and they don't get any more government support. And they can become homeless. They can be destitute. It's really scary. Some of these people have PhDs, you guys. Some of these people are so talented, but they can't speak the language. They don't know how to get a job. And back in the day, when I was doing this work and involved in this vertical, people thought they were like illegal immigrants, right? They didn't have the awareness that we have today, which is lovely that it's come so far. But long story short, my little sister was actually working for the Catholic Community Services. I'm going to give an example of how she did this without any of those fancy people and things, okay? So she worked for the Catholic Community Services. She was a job developer, and she did a really good job at her job, and she got Walmart to hire 30 refugees. It was the highest single hiring from any company in Utah ever. And so she crushed it at her job. They were going to hire 30 refugees. And she had this idea. She thought, instead of having it just go to my 30 refugees from our nonprofit, what if we did what was best for the refugees, full stop, and thought bigger, had longer term accounting and a bigger purview, okay? The first shall be last, the last shall be first in all things. So she says, hey, Walmart, this is your idea, right? Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. You want to hire the best 30 refugees. You don't care which agency it comes from or which nonprofit. You want to have a board and hire the best, most qualified employees for you. And they go, yeah, we do. She's like, okay, don't tell my boss, but it was your idea. Okay, and so then they put together this committee. They hired the 30 refugees. 10 of them came from her nonprofit. The other 20 didn't. And her boss was like, oh, that's so annoying. We have to share with our competitors, And she's like, I know, so annoying. Just like, but basically, what happened was Walmart was so pleased with those 30 refugees that the following year, Walmart hired 360 refugees, filling the quota for all of the organizations in the state of Utah. Isn't that cool? Okay, so what I'm telling you, this works. This is dumb smart, okay? Get behind others so they get behind you. Think bigger in the sector. Think bigger ideas. How can you serve everybody who's all competing and has a limited perspective and paradigm, okay? And try to be kind of a baller that way, okay? So fast forward, that was my career at Hadley Impact Consulting, and now I make movies and television for a living. And the reason I got into film is because I'm an impact junkie, and movies and TV shows get seen by a lot of people. My first documentary I made, you guys can watch, shameless plug, you can watch it on Apple. It's called Uncharitable. Ed Norton's in it, and it's a film about the nonprofit sector and how you can think differently about the nonprofit sector. Specifically addresses the demonization of overhead, or what people often in the general public, well, how much is everyone getting paid? How much money are they spending on marketing? And how much risk are they taking? What kind of failure have they had? Because I want that overhead. I don't want it to be very small. I want it to all go directly to the cause, right? Sounds like a great idea, but let me give you a little case example of how if you look at a percentage of the overhead of a nonprofit to determine how successful it is, it will utterly betray you, okay? Here's why. What cause do you care about? What's a cause you think is important? Anything. Rural communities in Cambodia. Are you a Roberts kid? Are you related to the Roberts? Okay, okay. Anyway, my friends become more, and they do all this work there. That's so cool. Rural communities in Cambodia. Okay, so we could do a little fundraiser for the Cambodian families, and we could do a bake sale, and everybody here could go home, and you guys use your own stuff from your cupboards, and you come back and bake it, and then we go out front on the street, and we have like cardboard boxes, and we're like put out the prices, and we sell it, and everyone's volunteering, and it's 0% overhead, but we raised $100 for the Cambodians. Yes. Or I can put on an Ed Sheeran concert. It costs $5 million, but it raises 10. It's 50% overhead. Which do you think the Cambodian people would prefer? Okay, this is just math. And so if you're going to look at something and say, if it's some depressing world that because the percentage of overhead doesn't grow the pie, then yeah, that would be stupid. But if it grows the pie, whatever percentage of it is, if it helps more people and has a bigger impact, that matters. So this film is basically about that and a bunch of other ideas. And I'll just, again, shameless plug, the CEO of TED Talk is on camera in our film saying that it's based on the work of Dan Pallotta, who gives a TED Talk. If you don't want to watch a 90-minute film, you don't have Apple, you can go to TED Talk and type in The Way We Think of Charity is Dead Wrong by Dan Pallotta. And it's a 13-minute version of this 90-minute film. And he says it's the most persuasive talk in the history of TED stages. That's a big deal to say. But it's making you think new thoughts about philanthropy. So I think our documentary is the most persuasive documentary in documentary history. Just kidding. I'm teasing. Okay, so this idea of rising tide lifts all boats, this idea of thinking about how can I help others achieve their goals so that I can achieve mine, is a deep form of empathy and emotional intelligence, and it's something deeply underestimated in business. And I'm just a big fan of this. So fast forward, I started making films, and I ended up producing some other films. And I was telling these guys earlier, I'm sorry, this is a repeat for people that were at dinner, but in film, only about 12% of films make money. The majority of them lose money. And Mike, can I count on you for like a cue when I should stop to ask questions? Am I doing okay? We're close. 5 minutes. Okay, I'll be real quick. So Harbor Fund is what I just started. It's the first of its kind 501c3 venture capital-shaped film fund. And the reason I started it is I started making films, but I wanted to leverage donor dollars to make the films. Why? Because everybody's money goes to money movie heaven, and I couldn't sleep at night if my friends lost their investment. Truly. I care way too much about the people that I work with. I care way too much about the wealthy people that write me a check. And the anxiety that it would induce in me if I couldn't see a return on their investment would just keep me up at night. So I decided to build a first of its kind venture capital shaped fund. It's a fund that actually receives donations, and they get a tax deduction. These are major gifts. I'm never going to raise money, $30 from a grandma or something. These are $100,000 checks minimum kind of thing to be in on the project. We have these different film projects. They get to be in on it. They become executive producer. Maybe they get to be on the red carpet. They get to hang out with, whatever. We're making films with Leonardo DiCaprio and Matt Damon and Ben Affleck and Jack Black and all these amazing people. And they get to hang out with these people, and they get to be a part of their films, and they get the credit, and they get to brag to their friends, I made that movie, and all that stuff. They get a tax deduction, and they get to influence culture. So there's movies and entertainment, and then there's movies and entertainment that have a purpose, that are intentional, that are social impact, like the movie Blood Diamond and Taken, or 13 Reasons Why, or Love on the Spectrum, or all these amazing films and shows that you can look at and say, gosh, they make a difference. Schindler's List, all these kinds of projects that actually teach you. Anybody seen the movie Lion? It's a great movie. These projects are about causes that you need to learn about, and they're as jaded as we can get also, additionally to politics, about Hollywood. It's the most powerful PR engine in the world. So I wanted to hijack it for good. And the idea of this fund is that they make a donation into the fund based on a specific project. They become executive producer. Our fund then takes an equity position, or takes basically profit share, right, an agreement with those filmmakers. And if there's any returns, the money, including the original investment, so the principal and the carry, all the potential upside, comes back into the fund perpetually, like an evergreen war chest for filmmaking. And we're the first to ever do it. It's called the Harbor Fund. The reason we call it the Harbor is this idea of rising tide lifts all boats, and there's a couple other reasons, but this idea that everybody wins and everyone can transact in it. It's this virtuous cycle, like a love letter to films and creatives. So what's happened is blowing my mind. My mentor was an incredible businessman, the most successful options trader who ever lived, ultra high net worth successful man, and he flew planes for a living. And he said, always look for tailwind. You guys know what that means? Like you can go faster if you catch the tailwind. So this has more tailwind than anything I've ever built. In the last 6 months, we've raised $6.5 million for a charity. On our board, we have some of the most high-profile people from the film industry. Mark Burnett, who did Survivor, The Voice, Apprentice, Shark Tank. Patty Jenkins, who did Wonder Woman. Jared Butler, the actor from 300 and P.S. I Love You. Katie Couric, the journalist and billionaire philanthropist who started Bookings.com and Priceline.com. Jeff Hoffman. And just a few weeks ago, I actually hosted a fundraiser. We're not in our underwear, this is swimming suits. But this is Richard Branson and me, the founder of Virgin. We just hosted our first ever film forum. It was like our annual gala at his private island in Necker Island. And we had high net worth people come and buy tickets, and we had a bunch of celebrities, and we pitched our films and created this harbor fund. And so basically, such powerful and influential people have gotten behind us because they believe in the power of storytelling, and they love the idea of how we built this to be sustainable and perpetual. So these are all just ideas and ways I just wanted to share with you guys my story and some of the thinking and ways of looking at the world. And really, I really don't want to make it much more about me, but I'd love to show, if we can show really quick, one of our videos. You always want to see a little trailer for one of our TV shows we're making called Take 21. Okay, I think I have 2 videos, but I'd love to skip the one where I explain Harbor Fund because you already just heard me do it quickly. I don't know who has the video for Take 21. Do I do that page or someone? Well, maybe somebody can pull it up for me. I don't know. There was a video, but if not, it's okay. While you're pulling it up, okay, here it is, perfect. Okay, this is to help you understand the kind of stuff we're going to be making. He's kidding about these. He's just name dropping for fun. Okay, so that's our show. Thank you. So those are the kind of shows and movies that we're investing in at Harbor Fund, and Jared and Drew are amazing, and Marty and Jessica are the producers. And so that's the kind of stuff we're going to make in the world, make the world a better place. So if you know any high net worth people that want to get into film and television and want to make a difference with us, we would love to meet them and have them partner with us in any way. So I thought we'd kind of open up for some questions. Is that right, Mike? Are we 10 minutes? Guys, I should have given you more time. I'm so sorry. I am so long-winded. Anybody have questions for me? Thank you for having me today. No questions? Guys, I can't take this kind of rejection. Okay. Yeah. What's your name, by the way? Hi, Noah. Nice to meet you. Sure. Yeah. At Harbor Fund? Yeah. Oh, cool. So I'm no longer doing music benefits and concerts, but if you wanted to get involved at Global Citizen, first of all, you can go to globalcitizen.org and sign up and be engaged as like a user. But if you wanted to like get an internship and stuff, what we can do is, Mike, I can get my assistant's email and you can share that with the class, and then she can connect with you and we can try to help. Any of you guys are welcome. If I can help you in any way, I'd love to build a resume, see if there's like volunteer or an internship opportunities like that. That'd be awesome. Okay, cool, Noah. Any other questions? Yeah. Oh my gosh, the struggle bus. I'm on the struggle bus on the regular. No, one of the things that, in total vulnerability, years ago, from all this high-powered stuff and hustle, I had like this utter year from hell where like a death by 1,000 cuts happened to me. I felt like my pets' heads were falling off. Anyway, these are movie references. If you haven't seen Dumb and Dumber, I'm sorry. And you should remedy that immediately. But I had this really horrible year where loved ones of mine passed away. I had several family members die. And I had a business partner that was embezzling money, and I had falling out with friends. I had just like this calamity of errors. And the situational stress and anxiety created situational depression, and I struggled with anxiety and depression for like 7 years. And I didn't end up taking any medication until later. I'm totally good now, thank you God, and I got better. But in that time, that season, the dark night of the soul, the thing that helped me most by far was two things. Number one, my faith in God and like a higher plan and a divine being and like a loving entity out there. And I just believe it. I'm betting my life on it all. And that really, really helped me to find like spiritual healing. The second thing that helped me is the caliber of human beings. I think you've got to find a joy squad and like literally write them on your phone. Like, you guys ever heard of Mary Kondo? She like does like, does it spark joy? And you throw it away. Like, like if it doesn't. Who are the people that spark so much joy in you when you're with them? They're life-giving. They make you feel edified. They make you feel good about yourself. Because co-regulation with human beings, if you're with somebody and they actually like care about you and you can feel their energy, it's infectious. We are herd animals. We aren't very fast. We don't have very sharp nails or teeth. We can't fly. And so the way we've stayed around for millions of years is by being together, okay? And if you can be with people and like if you don't have good friends, call me, I'll be your buddy. I have amazing friends that I'll share with you. But ultimately, be with people that make a difference in the literal lived experience of your life. Like, how do they elevate you? How do they inspire you? How do they make you want to be better? And then be the kind of friend you want to see in others, okay? So that's my biggest hack is the caliber of humanoids around you and try to be with good ones. I know it sounds like a simple answer, but it's 100% genuine. Yeah. Yeah. Low and high? Such a good question. So he asked, what is the difference between like high and low situations? I think you need them all. I don't know that one's better. Like, yes, you like learn through pain really effectively, but I'm learning. I think that's like kind of what my paradigm has been in a lot of people. Like, oh man, the hardest lessons, the most pain teaches us. It's true. I mean, it humbles you, brings you to your knees. It like shapes you. It just like you get cultivated from the inside out through pain and suffering. That's true. But I'm learning to learn more through joy. That there's actually, an entire framework where you can be like, even something that seems hard, you can make it not feel hard by the way you approach it. You can actually be like, this is amazing. Look at this opportunity. Paradigm matters, right? How we look at something and how we feel about something. So in terms of the difference between the two of them, I'm trying to like make hard things not be as painful by my paradigm. And there's a thing called a paradigm shift that Stephen R. Covey talks about. He talks about a man that was on a train, like some kind of public transport. I think it was like a subway. And a man came in slumping over, totally neglecting his little children that were like chaotic and out of control. And they were like jumping and interrupting and fighting and loud and like causing all this inconvenience. And this businessman, I think it was Stephen Covey actually from my memory, he was like, oh, this jerk of a dad, like not even paying attention, like being such an inconvenience to everybody, putting everyone out. And a woman went up to the man and was like, are you okay with total empathy and awareness of this man. And the man looked up and was like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I left the hospital where my wife just passed away. And in a moment, Stephen Covey said his entire paradigm shifted about how he felt about that situation. His thinking about that man before, without information, with a paradigm that he was this loser dad, versus a man in total pain and just so moved by him, right? So we can have paradigms about situations and not look at it like, this person stole my money, or this jerk dumped me, or that person didn't like my Instagram post, or whatever. You can decide to look at the situation with new eyes and have eyes to see and ears to hear in a way that actually makes it not hurt as bad. I know that's, again, these are kind of platitudes, but that's a great question. Yeah. Agreed. Oh, thank you. Public speaking. That's so nice. I'm a words of affirmation person. I'm going to live on that for months. My son's like, Mom, you need to learn to not interrupt people so much and talk slower. So I don't know that I'm the best communicator, but that's really sweet of you to say. I think the best way to learn any skill is to be around people who are masters of it. Like, we learn through osmosis. Like, we level up. This is a real thing. We actually co-regulate. We learn. I think if you want to learn how to be a good public speaker, go to public speeches, especially like watch people online. You can take master classes and courses. You know what I mean? Really learn. The main thing about public speaking that I would say is like a hack, and again, I don't think I'm that great of it. I'm not trying to be falsely modest. I don't think I'm that good of a public speaker, but thank you. I think that the main thing is when you show up and you know that it's not about you, like you guys are not an audience for me to somehow have some self-aggrandizing experience. It's like, I care about you. I hope that I'm giving you value. I hope I'm telling you the stories that you think new ways of thinking. And man, she could accomplish that, and she's kind of a loser. Imagine what I can do. Like, that's what I hope comes out of this, right? So at the end of the day, if I come to you and there's a service I'm trying to give, if I'm constantly a value creator, I think you'll be surprised at how effective we can be. I think a lot of times nervousness and anxiety in public speaking comes from like, oh, what do they think about me? Which is, again, like self-focus, you know? So I think that's a big thing, is learning to just think of how can I love and serve and put light into others and be of service. So hopefully that's helpful. Yeah. Yeah, internship. That was what I kind of said at the very beginning. That was everything. Like, volunteer. Go shine the shoes. Like, do anything you can to be in proximity to who you want to be like or what you want to accomplish. If you're like, that's where I want to go and that's who I want to be when I grow up, or that's the kind of business I want to build, or that's the kind of, career I want to have, like, be in proximity, build relationships with people who have done it, because nothing can beat lived experience and a mentor and relationships in any goal you ever have. Like, nothing can beat it. Are we good on time? Okay, we're done. Okay, everybody, thank you so much.